Assalamualaikum. Hello, everyone. So I'm Hana. I'm a communication science student from year 2020. Today, I would like to explain to you about my mini thesis. It's one of the assignments in qualitative research subject in my study program, and my research title is Effective and Adaptive Communication for Healthy Work Environment in FMCG Company During the Pandemic. All right, so first of all, this mini thesis or research, from the bottom of my heart, I would like to say that it's still poorly written due to the narrow range of time in the making. Therefore, I would like to apologize in advance and as well inform the viewers here that it will surely be revised as soon as possible. Despite the lack of materials, insights, and deep understandings, I still hope that this research can provide some fresh and fun package information that is beneficial for others. All right, then, we're going to share the screen here. Screen. Okay, so this is the mini thesis as you can see in the screen. All right. Effective and adaptive communication for healthy work environment in FMCG or fast-moving consumer good company during the pandemic. Arranged by me, Hana Hanifa, from Class B, number of presents 12, and my name is 14106200076. Okay, let's move on to the table contents, and then we can as well see that there is chapter 1. This is the beginning of our journey. So the research background. Undoubtedly, it is known that COVID-19 disease has changed a few or many of the world system. People was forced to adapt to the current situation. The wheel of life have to keep on spinning. As in corporate world, it has been more than 2 years after their worker have to start working from home. Surely new challenges appear since most of the adult workers have to deal with their double role. They encountered a confusion zone between the urge to be a professional worker and to be a different role at home, such as parents. Many issues about worker or employed parents started to appear. From the survey on 1,000 parents in United States of America, it was discovered that many parents believe being a parent has been a disruption towards them in work. Most of them, 66%, stated that even though some schools started reopen, their children will still have to take their lessons virtually. It was also discovered that 4 out of 10 parents, which is 41%, stated that they have less work security because of the pandemic. This can add another count to penalize and unemployed matters. While everybody seems to be in an under pressure situation in general, the mothers have it the worst because expected to disproportionately face household responsibility and nurturity. This information I have obtained from the Catalyst and CNBC from 2020. In this study, we will be more focused on the effective and adaptive communication within the corporate itself. Currently, flexibility is the most seek convenience among the workers. Based on current research from Future Forum, who did a survey on more than 10,000 workers all over the world, found around 94% people are in need of flexible work schedule. Flexibility ranks second after compensation in terms of workplace satisfaction. Company with the highest rank in work-life balance is a company that implemented flexible work, whether through time, remote working, personal time off, or any other allowances. I obtained this information from Smith 2022. Okay, next we're going to the research focus. Work from home style has been an obstacle to companies from any sectors, unexceptionally FMCG company. FMCG company sells following products quickly and at relatively low cost. Non-durable household goods such as packaged foods, beverages, toiletries, candies, cosmetics, over-the-counter drugs, dry goods, and other consumables. While the acronym of FMCG is quite self-explanatory, we can also define it by knowing what type of product they sell. From then on, the researcher viewed FMCG company as a never-ending spinning wheel. Whether it is pandemic or not, the corporate system must keep on working since they provide almost all of the daily needs. According to issue above, in manifesting a healthy work environment that emphasizes flexibility, especially during the pandemic, effective and adaptive communication is needed. The researcher view effective and adaptive communication as a combination of various elements such as good flow of corporate communication, leadership style, beneficial culture. Therefore, the problem formulation in this research is how is the effective and adaptive communication for healthy work environment in FMCG company during the pandemic. Okay, the research purpose. The purpose of this research is to explore the flow of corporate communication, leadership style, and beneficial culture in FMCG company during the pandemic, and to understand how much they implement flexibility to get into healthy work environment and work-life balance. Okay, we have two classification of research benefits here. The first one is theoretical benefits and the second one is practical benefits. So what's the theoretical benefits about? Researchers hope that this research can give contribution in literature and theoretical study for communication science students, especially in State University of Jakarta, or in Indonesian called as Universitas Negeri Jakarta. Researchers hope that this research can also provide the materials and references needed for the academics. Okay, next, for the practical benefits, the researcher hope that this research can provide explanation of effective and adaptive communication for healthy work environment in FMCG company during the pandemic. Researchers hope that this research can give a good illustration and explanation of effective and adaptive communication, especially in FMCG industry that is currently challenged by the pandemic, so that the other party who had been held back by the situation can eventually revive itself. We're just trying to support each other, small businesses, big businesses. Okay, we're going next to the second chapter, literature review. So I've gathered some of the previous researchers, around 10 researchers. I've gathered researchers, yeah, not researchers, but researchers. I've gathered around 10 here. The table 2.1. Okay, so what's the first research about? The title is Corporate Culture and Organizational Performance, a review of literature. The problem simulation on the problem formulation on this research is what type of element has the responsibility to incorporate culture in the entity at the inception. For the research purpose, the study aimed at establishing the relationship existing between the corporate culture and organizational performance. For the research method, this research used qualitative approach by having an extent review of literature. The result is that this research discovered that based on same model of organizational culture, which includes the shared values, beliefs, and basic underlying assumption, management has the responsibility to incorporate culture in the entity at the inception. Moreover, there exists a significant and close relationship between corporate culture and organizational performance, as the latter has led to tremendous success and development in the organizations. All right, we're going on to the next research, relevant research. Long-term effects of perioperative breathing and debriefing on team climate. That's the title. And the problem formulation is, what is the effect of perioperative breathing and debriefing on team climate? And then the research purpose was, this research was made to evaluate the long-term effects of perioperative briefing and debriefing on team climate. And then the method is, this research used qualitative approach, mixed method, evaluation through questionnaire and interview. The result is, although perioperative breathing and debriefing improve participative safety, and the intervention will become more effective for maintaining team climate when teams are complete. Irrelevant questions are substituted by customized one, and when there is a safer culture for feedback. The third research is the work environment during coronavirus epidemics and pandemics, a systematic review of studies using quantitative, qualitative, and mixed method designs. The problem formulation is, how is work environment and ways to improve it during the coronavirus epidemics and pandemics. This research aimed at providing an overview of how environment and occupation health are affected, and describe interventions designed to improve the work environment during epidemics and pandemics. This research used qualitative approach by having systematic reviews and meta-analysis, and the results include healthcare staff experience increased job demands, poor leadership, and lack of resources, personal protective equipment, personnel and competence. Moreover, high demands and work with infected patients were associated with negative mental health. Okay, so the first three row previous research here on the table, I classified them all as this is firstly about the work environment itself, like the culture affects the organizational performance, and then the second is about the long-term effects, and then so yeah, this is basically about the working environment. And the third one is much more specific. It's about the work environment and plus the during the coronavirus epidemics and pandemics, because that is what currently happened. Okay, next, for the three next previous research in a row, from fourth research until the sixth research, I classified them as the about the leadership, whether it's defining leadership or just knowing about understanding about the leadership styles. The fourth research titled is Servant Leadership and Employee Engagement, a Qualitative Study. The problem formulation is, how is the relation between servant leadership and employee engagement? This research aimed at deepening the relationship between servant leadership and employee engagement in a large Italian consulting firm. This research used qualitative approach by assessing the implementation through survey and investigating with semi-structured questionnaire. The result is that this research found that employee engagement is positively influenced by servant leadership through various mediators, either leader-centered, such as empowerment; team-centered, such as team cohesion; organization-centered, such as positive organization; climate; job-centered, such as challenging tasks; and employee-centered, such as proactive personality. The fifth research is about a qualitative study regarding the leadership traits and styles of the millennial generation in the manufacturing industry. What is the them of dominant leadership traits? How is millennial leadership abilities? What is the pattern of leadership strengths? And purpose is this research aimed at comprehending the key traits and styles of millennial leaders. Okay, so this is also the specific one of the specific research since it's on millennial. This research used a qualitative approach with interview method in collecting the data. The main contribution of this paper is to provide the extension of leadership theories applied for the millennials in the manufacturing sector. The findings show that young leaders in Vietnam have leadership abilities to inspire and motivate the subordinates throughout exploring the common characteristics such as good listeners, optimism, and happiness. They have recognized that working in a team will enable them to achieve their employee performance and business goals. All right, so the sixth leadership research is about. The title is Leadership Style Analysis to Improve the Quality of Human Resources. Okay, the problem formulation is how a leader applies the value and principle of leadership. The research aimed at analyzing the leadership style applied and the application of leadership values by the leaders at YPMS as a non-profit organization. This research used a descriptive qualitative method by having interview and observation. And this research discovered that the leadership style of the chairman of YPMS was a transformational, situational, and authentic leadership style, while the leadership values applied are intelligence, self-confidence, perseverance, integrity, and social skills. The result of the analysis showed that leaders in the YPMS use several leadership styles to improve the quality and quality. There's a mistake in this one. The quantity and quality of the foundation. No, quality only. Okay, so the from seven research to the last research, which is 10th research, is about the communication within the corporate, within the organizational, whether it's for the good of the reputation or the workflow that can be more efficient with effective and adaptive communication. So the seventh research is corporate reputation through strategic communication of corporate social responsibility. The problem formulation is how to use the communication strategies and channels to achieve an effective CSR communication. And this research aimed at exploring the communication of corporate social responsibility that contributes towards a favorable corporate reputation. This research used a qualitative content analysis method with directed approach. This research showed that 7 out of 10 organizations use both self-serving and society-serving motive in the CSR communication and control channels. There's more to it. When I read about this research, they talked about how the flow of communication really works and that because of the right decision of choosing the right medium, the right platform to communicate their CSR or corporate social responsibility. Okay, so the eighth research on communication in a professional organization during the COVID-19 pandemic crisis. The problem formulation is how is the role of internal communication in a professional organization during the COVID-19 pandemic crisis. This research aimed at analyzing the process of organizational members' professions or occupation influence perceptions of internal communication and discussing the role of internal communication in creating a strong organizational identity. This research mostly use concepts but also have quantitative data from survey to illustrate the theoretical reasoning. The results show that the administrative groups perceive factors in the internal crisis communication more variably than professional groups. The study suggests that organizational members perceive internal crisis communication differently depending on which inter-organizational group they belong to. The ninth is reviewing corporate social responsibility communication, a legitimacy perspective. All right, so the problem formulation is how is the role of legitimacy in CSR communication research? The research aimed at developing and substantiating outcomes that may better explain CSR communication strategies and practices. And then the research used literature collection methodology combined with directed content analysis. This research discovered that the most important types of legitimizing communicative perspective articulated in the four types of studies were related to seeking knowledge about stakeholders, through perception, impact, and promotion activities, monitoring and controlling the environment, through image and reputation activities, creating stakeholder value through collaboration and engagement, and persuading and convincing stakeholders through rhetorics, CSR models, and concepts. The study also found that practices and activities related to perceiving stakeholders, expectations, needs, and requirements are assumed to be most effective for cooperation aiming at building or maintaining legitimacy. The 10th research is about internal communication practices and implications. How is the internal communication perceived among the practitioners? This research aimed at comprehending the importance of internal communication in organization and the value, impact, and influence that practitioners associate with this function. For the method, this research used a qualitative approach by online survey and analysis method. This research discovered that internal communication is viewed as important to organizational success. Okay, so the concept, we can start with effective and adaptive communication. Effective communication focuses on the process involved in business communication and concentrates on ways in which you can become more effective by becoming more knowledgeable and skilled as a communicator. All forms of communication, whether writing, listening, or speaking, are the end products of a process that begins with critical thinking. From Rourke, 2015. Effective communication includes topics such as overcoming barriers, planning approach, matching message, choosing the right medium, developing visual support, coherently and confidently delivering message, listening actively, understanding, managing the process, persuading, and negotiating. The researcher added adaptive after effective due to the current situation. COVID-19 pandemic. The big change in communication system can be seen obviously by the medium. Zoom or Google Meet was not a familiar app with the commoners, even if the corporate workers might already be familiar with the virtual meeting app like WebEx. The students and other workers have not really used it before. So we can just realize that Zoom, Google Meet, or WebEx is not even a thing, especially for us, the students, since we are always tend to go to schools. Whatever happened in the sun day or the storm raining season. So yeah, we don't really have to be familiar with that type of virtual app meeting before the pandemic happened. Long before that, people know about Skype as the virtual meeting app to keep in touch with the family from across the sea until it started to get replaced by a video call feature on social media like WhatsApp. In the end, Zoom and Google Meet came around instead to accompany everyone's business because it can provide virtual rooms with much more slots for the participants, 100 or even more people. So it's kind of adapting with the situation from the needs of using video call like a virtual face-to-face app just for contacting your family from across the sea, and then to having a whole class together, or even a webinar. It's a seminar that is held virtually, can also meet together in the same room in a digital platform as a 400 participants or even more, can be thousands, according to the limited amount of participant in each application, of course. So yeah, the business keep evolving for them. This research explore more about the changes in corporate communication process, especially in FMCG industry. The study is about the company's ability to be flexible and still manage to manifest a healthy work environment for their workers so nobody gets mentally exhausted by the situation. So yeah, it's been a hard time already for the pandemic to happen. So in case not to make it any worse, we have to adapt to the situation. We have to make this work and communication flow much more flexible than before. Otherwise, we'll get mentally exhausted. That's the cost. So the next concept is corporate communication. The previous research had done study about the effect of effective communication on organizational performance by randomly selected 3 consultancy companies in Lusaka as the target population. The total number of employees from all 3 companies was 138 in total. Sampling technique was used for each company to have a wide variety of all classes of employees represented as respondents to the study. This was sufficient to help generalize the findings. The study started to identify the major factors affecting effective communication based on the system theory, and it was noted that different management styles and conflict in the workplace were key issues. The study revealed that there is a positive relationship between the channel of communication used and effective communication. Also, the study did confirm the effective communication has a positive effect on organizational performance. However, there was no relationship between management and channel management and channel of communication used. The data from questionnaire also revealed that different communication styles from managements are biggest barrier to effective communication. All right, the researcher prepared to examine more about effective corporate communication process using a book by Paul Woods titled "How to Do Great Work Without Being an Asshole." Yeah, that's a censor word right there. So this research will be guided by perspectives of communication in terms of erasing egomania, meeting pitching, project scope, briefing, feedback, presentation, and long work hour. Another previous research give more focus on the impact of strategic corporate communication that will benefit the corporate's reputation through CSR. Effective CSR communication benefits an organization in several ways. CSR communication can be used to influence stakeholders' positive perception of the organization. For example, when consumers spread positive words regarding the organization's involvement in CSR initiatives, CSR communication also leads to awareness of shared social concerns with stakeholders. When facilitates their identification with the company. Consequently, stakeholders' identification with the organization leads to increased patronage and other brand supporting behaviors such as positive word of mouth, customer loyalty, and referrals. On the other hand, failure to identify with the organization could lead to engaging in negative word of mouth and even the organization, I'm sorry, and even organized boycotts. Arguing that the way scholars conceptualize CSR communication affects their thinking on whether CSR communication may lead to gaining and or losing legitimacy. The study examined how corporate legitimacy is anticipated and extrapolated in CSR communication literature. The study highlighted which CSR communication practices are assumed to be most effective when bridging stakeholders' perceptions, cooperation, social, and environmental actions, and the corporate CSR agenda. Lastly, there's a study that highlights the role of professions in crisis communication, which is an aspect that so far has been ignored. The internal professionalization processes an intriguing power, but a struggle between professions have obvious consequences for crisis communication, as shown in the overview of earlier research on internal communication, leadership, and professional organizations. The prerequisites for creating an increased organizational unity among coworkers are challenging. The idea that the crisis effect is still relevant, even if the study is an example of how this did not happen. The survey answered during an emergency period shows that there is a gap between management and administration on one side and strong groups of professions on the other. This can be explained by the two parallel professionalization processes. For the for the professions on the other hand and the administrative elite on the other. They are simultaneously active in many professional organizations. The result of these intertwined processes is a power game, with a clear goal to increase status and position in the organization, which is really productive and valuable for the organization. The professional group at the top of the professional status hierarchy in the organization stand out since they are the most negative toward top management and do not feel aligned with the overall organization. To a certain extent, to a certain extent, this can be explained by the fact that this professional group have another logic that does not necessarily comply with managerial logic and professionals, and that professional tend to identify more with a profession rather than the organization, but the results also indicate why this is the case. This group in this professional organization, where was it? Oh my lord, I'm sorry guys, I lost it. Okay. Where was that? Where is it? I'm sorry, I lost it, guys. Was it clear? Okay, we'll start from the professional group at the top of. Okay, we've been there before. Since they are most negative toward top management, do not feel aligned to the overall organization to a certain extent. We've been there before. Okay, this one. This group in this professional organization does not feel appreciated and listened to by management. But drawing to great conclusions from a limited survey, it still indicates that internal communication focusing on listening and relationship building may be crucial for avoiding and increase the coupling between management, administration, and the professional groups. Thus, the study indicates that internal communication during a prolonged crisis has a much broader and more complex role that goes beyond a simple message service. Healthy work environment. Our third conception. A healthy work environment has often been described focusing on physical, psychosocial, and organizational conditions affecting the health of the employees, and often from the perspective of the present problems in an organization. HWE is grounded in intentional, systematic, and collaborative efforts with a culture, climate, and practice that create an environment promoting employee health and safety, as well as nurturing organizational effectiveness regarding profit and production. All right, I'm going to classify it by having the leadership styles and culture, corporate culture, for the additional information. A good leader must be able to understand or able to observe the behavior of his employees so that he can understand what leadership style is suitable for use in an effort to encourage the performance and productivity of the employee, and even make the employee a reliable person and become a leader. Everyone's leadership style can be different, but by equating perceptions and results of analysis of suitable leadership styles, especially top managers, middle managers, and lower managers, employees will understand how leaders must act in completing job description and fulfillment responsibility towards the company as a good employee. A leader who can analyze the appropriate leadership style and which should be used by the person will be very helpful in the process of leading his employees in his company. Having the right leadership style in accordance with the conditions required by the company and employees will greatly boost the company's level of success in achieving its organizational goals. According to Peter, there are 7 leadership styles. First, situational leadership style. Second, contingency leadership style. Third, transformational leadership style. Fourth, transactional leadership style. Fifth, servant leadership style. Sixth, authentic leadership style. Seventh, team leadership style. So for the culture, the concept of organizational culture helps in explaining some incomprehensive aspects of organizations, groups, and occupations. See define culture as a pattern of shared basic assumption learned by a group of people to solve the problem of internal integration and external adaptation, which has been considered valid due to its effectiveness and therefore worthy to be taught to new members as the correct way of thinking, perceiving, and feeling relating to the problems identified. From the critical literature review relating to the subject matter, it could be indicated the impact of shared values, assumptions, and beliefs as a catalyst of organizational growth and development, which is a reflection of the extent to which organizational members in the organization appreciate and imbibe the culture existing in an organization. However, for successful implementation, it needs the concerted effort of both the management and of the employees. The management has the responsibility of establishing their values, beliefs, and assumptions that are acceptable and appreciated by organizational members for continuous success and development. Okay, what is this fourth conception? Okay, the fourth conception is FMCG company, fast-moving consumer goods. Company sells following products quickly and at relatively low cost, such as non-durable household goods, such as packaged food, beverages, toiletries, candies, cosmetics, and over-the-counter drugs, dry goods, and other consumables. The next conception is pandemic. And the previous research stated that longitudinal studies are needed to follow changes over time, accumulating knowledge that may enable conclusion about the causality and effects in different groups. Furthermore, it is important to develop and evaluate interventions using experimental designs to establish effective measures to enhance the work environment and health as new epidemics and pandemics evolve. And healthcare employees report experiencing stigma for working with infected patients. More research is needed on this topic and how to protect healthcare workers from such an extra burden during a health crisis. There is a paucity of studies from industries other than healthcare investigating the work environment and employee health during the after epidemics and pandemics. There is, for example, a need to study the long-term effect of remote work to evaluate both positive and negative impacts. There has, in general, been a larger focus on risk and stressor in the work environment and less research on possible positive changes into the work environment that can inform the development of the new working life past COVID-19. So in this research, the variable is effective and adaptive communication. The internal elements of the variable will become the research objects. This variable is the guidance to explore and understand more about the flow of effective and adaptive communication for healthy work environment in FMCG company during the pandemic. All right, we're going to the third chapter, research methods. So the first one is research paradigm. Paradigm. This research used constructivism paradigm due to the need for developing subjective meaning of FMCG company worker experiences in manifesting healthy work environment during the pandemic with effective and adaptive communication. In this research, the researcher rely on the informed perspective and understanding of effective and adaptive communication for healthy work environment in FMCG company during the pandemic. Okay, the research used qualitative approach since the researcher collected several data from the field will be collected several data from the field where there are informants whom had experienced the research method. The researcher used observational study and interview method to get the required information while using some instruments such as video and voice recorder. At the end of the step, the researcher reviewed the collected data, comprehend it, and arrange it in a way it can be transferred into relevant code in depth. This research used qualitative descriptive method in order to understand the flow of effective and adaptive communication for healthy work environment in FMCG company during the pandemic. This research used phenomenology as its strategy and focus on meso-level theory involving some workers in FMCG companies that showed their adaptability and flexibility. This research used unit analysis as the subjects whom perspective and experiences are studied. Therefore, the unit analysis in this research is the FMCG company workers. This research used purposive sampling and withdrawal technique for the informant. The criteria of informants who are chosen had been considered and defined by the researcher according to their involvement and relevance with this research. In this research, the FMCG workers who are in a leader position of at least a manager and a working parent at once become the informant's criteria. This research used several data collecting methods such as observation, a briefing meeting, and informal work interaction, one-on-one interview and documentation, voice video recorder. These researches have reduction phase where some information will be summarized, transferred as codes, explored by them, classified, etc. The reduction will continuously happen until the complete final report is compiled. The display of data in the study was carried out by using a matrix, and everything is designed to combine information that is arranged in a coherent form. In this study, conclusions were obtained from field notes, coding, storage, and retrieval methods used, as well as the skills of the researcher. In the study, Coding was carried out to reduce data with the aim of selecting data. The code given in the result of interviews with several people in the group. The data for each code has been analyzed and collected according to the question studied. In addition, researchers summarized the result of interviews about the culture shock. Excuse me. Okay, that's all for the coding. Data validity. Data validity method used in this research is credibility test when the reported information from researcher is the same with what happened to research object in the process. Researcher used triangulation by checking data with various research resources, techniques, and times references obtained and used from literatures and field information. Okay, I think we reached the end of it. Okay, the rest is the bibliography. Okay, so that's all from me explaining my research. I really hope that um, the feedbacks from all the viewers here can make this research better in the future. So I really hope for the critics and feedbacks and advices from all of the viewers on the comment section down below. Thank you so much for your attention. Would like to say goodbye for a while now. Thank you so much once again. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.